Miriam, were you able to send the Zoom information to Councilmember Cermeño?
I did, and
Thank
I believe
you so
he's
much.
already joined. He has joined
Great.
already.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Okay.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us, whether you're doing so from our Comcast TV channel 15, our live stream from our city website, YouTube, or I think Zoom. I will call this special city council meeting to order. This meeting is being held consistent with the State of California Executive Order number 29-20, dated March 17th, 2020, and Alameda County Health Officer Order number 20-10, dated April 29th, 2020. And the City Council will be participating in public meetings via phone or video conferencing. And there you have it on the screen, what I just read. I've called the meeting to order, and we will ask Councilmember Marquez this evening to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Councilmember Marquez, are you there? All right, I'm going to ask you to join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Madam City Clerk, will you call the roll?
Yes, Madam Mayor, good evening. Councilmember Lamnin.
Good evening. I'm here.
Thank you. Councilmember Marquez.
She doesn't seem to have audio, is what she's indicating.
But I see she has joined, present.
Yes.
Right? Councilmember Mendel.
Here.
Councilmember Salinas.
Here. I just wanted to let everyone know that I am not in the mountain ranges. I am here in Hayward, California. And I keep getting unstable internet connection across my screen. So if I turn off my monitor, I'm trying to regain internet access, and then I'll rejoin. But tonight I'm having some difficulties. But thank you.
Well, it's a nice scene anyway.
Yes, thank you. Councilmember Wahab.
Here.
Councilmember Cermeño.
Present.
Mary Halliday.
Here.
Thank you. All 7 members present.
Now I'll ask our city attorney, Mr. Lawson, to we did have a closed session just prior to this meeting. I'll ask him to make the announcement on item number 1.
Greetings, Mayor. Assuming you can hear me, there was an item under the category of anticipated litigation at 6. Council discussed and took no reportable action. And all council members were present for that discussion. That's it, Mayor. I'll defer to you on the second item.
Yes, the second item was also an anticipated litigation case, and we did discuss that and took no reportable action. So with that, we will move on to public comments this evening. And I think the city clerk will now put up information about how you can make a public comment if you wish to. But meanwhile, Madam City Clerk, do we have anyone wanting to make a public comment? Okay, here we go.
Yes, if we could, and allow me to just make the announcement, as I don't see anyone raising their hand yet. But if you wish to speak and you are using the Zoom application, please click the raise hand function, and your name will be called. If you're dialing in, press *9 to raise your hand, and use *6 to unmute. If you are using multiple devices, that could cause feedback. So just be mindful of that. Your area code and last 3 digits of your phone number will be called when it's time for you to speak. When called to speak, please begin by stating your name and limit your remarks to 3 minutes. And now if I could see if we have any individuals wishing to speak. We have attendees, but it appears that no one wishes to speak under public comment, Mayor Halliday.
All right, then we will move on to our consent calendar. This is items number 1 through 6, I believe, this evening. I had, Madam City Clerk, do we have anyone who has requested to speak from the public on any of these items?
I don't see any members from the public wishing to speak. I don't see any hands raised at this point. And this again is items 1 through 6, correct?
So I think I might have council members, Councilmember Wahab.
I plan to move the items.
All right. And okay, so the consent calendar, items 1 through 6, has been moved by Councilmember Wahab, seconded by Councilmember Marquez. Madam City Clerk, will you call the roll for a vote?
Yes. Councilmember Lamnin?
Aye.
Councilmember Marquez?
Aye.
Councilmember Mendel?
Yes.
Councilmember Salinas?
Yes.
Councilmember Wahab?
Yes.
Councilmember Cermeño?
Yes.
Mayor Halliday?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, now we will move on to item number 7, which is our work session item this evening. And it is regarding the fiscal year 2020 preliminary unaudited general fund financial review. And I believe that on this, we are going to hear from Deputy Finance Department Director Nicole Gonzalez. Ms. Gonzalez, go ahead.
Actually, Mayor, if I may, I'm going to start off, but then I'll kick it over to Nicole here real quick.
Go ahead. We're going to first hear from our Director of our Finance Department, Mr. Clausen. Go ahead.
So I'm simply going to introduce the item and give it over here to Nicole to do the presentation. There is obviously a reason for the incredibly wordy title of the item, simply because there's a big caveat here in that our financial statements are under audit at this time. And so there will potentially be adjustments that will need to be posted. And so I just want to make folks aware and make sure that, these will be subject to audit and potential for change. But that didn't wanted to bring the information to people as soon as possible.
I want you to clarify that this is a routine annual audit, as we always have, and not due to any other, we've heard about audits lately that,
Correct.
Or some problem. This is just our routine annual audit, right?
This is the city's annual audit that, most, every agency in the state is subject to under. So it's just everything is going as routine.
Okay, great.
So without further ado, I will kick it over to Deputy Director of Finance, Nicole Gonzalez.
Okay. That's just
a little echo on our end. Good evening, Mayor, members of the City Council. Tonight, I will be providing a presentation and overview of the fiscal year 2020 preliminary unaudited general fund financial review. Again, this is a routine audit that we have annually. It is an unaudited presentation of the general fund through June 30th, 2020. As Director Clausen stated, we are currently in the process of finalizing the CAFR for fiscal year 2020, which will be presented to Council in early early calendar 2021. So this is a brief overview of the general fund year-end financials. It is a comparison of the fiscal year 2020 unaudited actuals with the fiscal year 2020 revised budget. The fiscal year 2020 year-end close is projected to end the fiscal year with a negative balance of 5.7 million general fund use of reserves. While we do see the use of reserves of 5.7, it is an improvement over what was revised at mid-year, which projected a use of $9.4 million. So I'm going to provide a little bit more detail on where we are ending the fiscal year with our general fund revenues. There are a couple of revenue sources where we are projected to end the fiscal year higher than what we had originally projected. The property tax is coming in at $1.5 million greater than the revised budget. Sales tax is currently coming in at 4.3 million higher, which I should note that is primarily attributed to the city beginning to receive sales tax from the Supreme Court decision on South Dakota versus Wayfair, which was a Supreme Court decision that allowed states to require remote sellers to collect and remit sales tax. And this was not included in the revised budget that was presented during the mid-year process. We do see a decline in the utility user tax, or UUT, of approximately $2 million over the projection. We also see a reduction of 3.3 million over the revised projection, with a total decrease of approximately 3 million over the revised projection that was presented during the mid-year process. I also wanted to make a note, it's not listed as a bullet point, but we did provide a updated projection on a number of the revenue sources here, one of them being TOT. While TOT did come in lower than the original projection, the revised projection included an estimate of 2.6 million by the end of the fiscal year, and we're coming in closer to 2.2 million. It is higher than what we had anticipated in late spring. After the onset of COVID-19, we presented a number of additional updates to revenue sources based on what we had information at the time. And at that time, we had estimated that TOT was going to come in at 1.8 million. So it is coming in higher than we had originally anticipated. General fund expenditures, we are not coming as close to the budgeted amount that we showed in revised 2020. We do show a overall savings of closer to 6.7 million. Most of that is attributed to both salaries and benefits, and then of course non-personnel expenditures. Salaries and benefits equate to about 1.6 below what was revised. Our revised budget, and that is primarily attributed to position vacancies, as well as medical premium savings related to plan cost changes and employee cost sharing and changes in plans. We also do see a reduction in the transfer to the medical retiree benefit fund as well, and that had to do with addressing potential cash flow during the spring after the onset of COVID-19. With additional savings in the non-personnel expenses of 5.1 million, which is about 10.6% below the revised budget amount. A lot of that is attributed to the cost reduction strategies that we implemented to ensure appropriate general fund cash flow through the end of the fiscal year. After we after the onset of COVID-19, a number of strategies were implemented to ensure that we had enough cash flow to get us through the end of the fiscal year. Some of those reductions included general fund transfers to capital fund projects, debt service, and internal service fees, including the medical retiree benefit fund. Other expenditures make up some deferred expenses, I would say. Those are usually related to contracts. So pending contracts, pending appropriations for grant funds that were not expended in the fiscal year 2020, but will carry forward into fiscal year 2021 to meet those obligations. We do have a slide here that provides some revenue comparison trends over fiscal year 2019 and fiscal year 2020. The table shows an analysis of trends between those two fiscal years for the same period of May through July. You can see the impacts of both sales tax and real property transfer tax. Those trends for the same period for the city's revenues resulted in a decrease of approximately $2 million. Again, this is really due to the uncertainties surrounding the pandemic and the impacts that it might have and how deep those impacts will be based on how long the shelter in place is still in effect. But we do anticipate to fill those effects through fiscal year 2021. Some of those impacts might be a result of California state sales tax deferral program that was implemented by the governor, as well as, again, the impacts that the shelter in place will have on industries such as retail and restaurants. Furthermore, we had recent conversations, with HDL, the city's property tax consultant, and we're seeing a significant decline in property sales, which have direct impact to transfer fees and transfer taxes, So when compared to last year, we're seeing a trend around 30% of where we were last year during the same period. So we'll continue to monitor those revenues and trends and provide council with regular updates on how we're trending compared to last fiscal year. So some of the next steps, as I mentioned, the fiscal year 2020 Comprehensive Annual Financial Report, also known as the CAFR, will be completed in the next several months and will be presented to council in early 2021. We will also return to council with an update on the city's fiscal year 2021 revenues collected before the end of the calendar year. And the reason that we have that presented before the end of the calendar year is that we do receive like sales tax and property tax. There is a delay in receiving those. And so we will begin to receive those and record those in the next month or so. And so we will be providing an update to council with those trends and collections. At this time, I'd like to open it up for questions from any of the council member. Both Director Clausen and myself are here to answer any questions that you might have.
There I am, unmuted now. Council Member Zermino.
Thank you, Nicole, and thank you, Dustin, for the report. I like the numbers. I'm surprised of the real property transfer tax. So my question is, do we have a study? Do we keep track of how many houses sell in our city?
Yes, we do. We do meet regularly with our property tax consultant who provides the number of transactions that occur within each calendar year.
Okay.
So we do have that information to trend how we're trending over year.
I'd be interested in finding out, for example, how many houses sell in South Hayward, how many houses sell in Eden Shores, how many houses sell up at Oaks Drive. Is that something that is doable, or is that just a blank number? 2,000 houses sold and we don't know where. Is that something, or am I asking for too much?
So if I may, we don't have it down to that pinpointed. We could probably do some research and see if we can get a bit more information on where in the city they're selling. What I'll say is we haven't seen a drastic reduction in the price of homes that are being sold, but we have seen we are at literally about 30% of home sales in comparison to the same months over the year previously. And so, if we had, and these are just ballpark numbers for comparison, if 1,000 homes sold in a month last year, 300 homes are being sold. Thankfully, the values, the home values for the tax are about the same, but we are seeing a drastic reduction in the number of homes that are actually being sold.
All right. I noticed cannabis went from close to $300,000 to $3,000. And the reason is because Cookies has just opened, or is there another reason?
Say that again, I'm sorry.
The revenues from cannabis went from a projected close to $300,000 to $3,000. Is that because of the recent opening of Cookies, or?
Correct. Yeah. So we have only had one licensed business, cannabis business in the city that has remitted taxes and is open and operating legally. And so we've only gotten one remittance of tax for a single quarter, and I'm not certain how COVID has affected their ability to operate within the city at this point. My hope, and I think the hope for everyone on council, is that we get more of the businesses that we had originally approved, or get some others through the RFP process to be able to go through the entitlement process and up and operating here in the city. But at this point, it's still sort of to be seen.
It would be helpful. Thank you much.
Mm-hmm.
That cannabis tax, the 250,000, that was just an estimate.
Right.
The actual was just under 3,000. So, okay, Councilmember Mendel.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Yeah, the estimate for cannabis in the previous years was assuming that one of the retail businesses would open last fiscal year, and they did not. But there is one in downtown that is now open. I think it opened in late July. And so we will finally start to see, some non-trivial numbers in that category in the current fiscal year. So I'm curious. This is to Nicole or Dustin. So I'm looking at the early returns on impacts from COVID, and they appear to be negative and bad, but not as catastrophic as we feared they might be. You want to comment on that characterization, whether you agree with it or not, or provide a little additional detail, especially if you don't agree with it?
I would agree. We were as conservative as possible, in our early estimates of what could happen. Really, no one had any type of idea how bad things would be, how long it would go. We did our best estimations based on, the information that we could get at the time. I don't think anybody anticipated that sales tax would be, and I use this term loosely, as good as it was for the quarter that ended the fiscal year. And I think that we were concerned with the potential that the sales tax deferral program in the state could have been much worse. We do have two of the major retailers that are sort of booming, if you will, during the pandemic, in both Target and two Costco's here in town. It was also, for as bad as things could have been and were, it was great timing for the city to begin receiving significant funds from the Wayfair decision and being able to collect. So that was, sort of a blessing in disguise. And property tax was another that really helped out. That
Wayfair decision.
Great.
Sorry, Dustin, that Wayfair decision really did save us the timing of that. Otherwise, it would have been a whole lot worse. So I guess something to think about, and obviously this is a work session, so no decisions can be made. But I think that, for the current fiscal year, FY21, we implemented a number of sort of emergency measures to preserve cash. The one where there was the most reluctance or division, or we were least sure of, was not paying our OPEB ARC. Mm-hmm. And that's one where every time we delay that payment, it just increases the amount that we owe. It doesn't actually save us money in the long run. It costs us money in the long run. It was a prudent thing to do when we weren't sure if it was going to be bad or extraordinarily bad. But now that and especially when you come back in December with the mid-year update, if we know at that point or feel confident at that point that it's bad, but not extremely bad, then that would be an appropriate point I think, for the council to immediately restore making that payment. I mean, we've talked about it like a mortgage payment. Delaying your mortgage is not a good thing. And so, unless we're in an emergency short-term cash crunch, we really should get back to paying that full amount as soon as we have that confidence that we can do that. So I hope by December, perhaps sooner. I don't know if you want to bring it back even sooner to have us start making that change. Your thoughts, Dustin or Nicole?
So I would say absolutely that's something that we should consider. I would recommend that we do it at the mid-year point, only because we as much as it feels like we're getting back to normal, we're still in a pandemic, and we're still not sure when exactly things will open back up fully. I think that, it was clear that everyone on the council was committed to, if there was a possibility of making it, then we absolutely do that. I absolutely support that. It was the one that gave me the most heartburn in delaying. So, yeah.
Me too. Yeah. So maybe the way to do that is when the mid-year budget update comes back, obviously that'll be a work session. But perhaps we can agendize that night, a consent item count or something to restore that funding, so that after we hear the update, if council agrees, then we can just take the action right away and prevent the late fees on those mortgage payments from ballooning any more than they already have. So I hope my other colleagues will chime in on that point, and hopefully we can provide some clear direction to staff to bring that action item back with the mid-year update. Thank you for the update. I appreciate it. I know we're going to be asking for this a little bit more frequently than we normally do, so thank you for accommodating Dustin and Nicole.
Thank you. Okay, Councilmember Wahab.
Thank you, Mayor. So I just want to be very clear. How much are we still under compared to our previous cycles or estimation? So
I think what you're asking, and correct me if I'm wrong, is how much in reserves are we using for?
Okay, let's say reserves we're using, and what is our overall deficit if we were not to use any reserves?
So if we don't use any reserves, then the deficit would be zero, right? Because we're in a deficit when we begin to use reserves.
Yeah.
So this year we projected, at the time that we adopted the budget, we were projecting a use of $8.9 million, I believe, at the time that we adopted it. We still did use reserves in fiscal year 2020. It was much better. It's still not out of the woods or didn't avoid a deficit, but we used 5.8 instead of the amount. Let me pull up the exact number. So we were projecting a use of 9.4. And we ended up using 5.7.
Okay.
That leaves us, so I guess, another good comparison. We were projecting to end the year with a general fund reserve of 27.5 million. And instead we should be looking somewhere in the $31.2 million range.
What is the percentage of our general fund reserve at this moment?
At this very moment, I don't have that off the top of my head. Probably in the 16 to 18 range would be my guess. But I can get that exact amount back to council. Okay.
And then my other concern, and for Councilmember Mendel, I do agree 100%. At least I'll speak for myself. My main goal is definitely to make sure that we reduce our debt, right? And one of the considerations, I saw these numbers, and I'm going to say I was happy that we weren't as bad as we assumed we would be. However, my big consideration is the fact that with so much uncertainty in the United States right now, as well as COVID, as well as so many other things, that we may just be at the very beginning of an economic downturn, and who knows, maybe in 6 months we're worse than we originally assumed at all, right? So I would like to prioritize just making sure that we have healthy reserves and we pay down our debt as a priority over anything else. The other consideration I do have is a lot of the agreements that we have made with our unions was to keep an eye on our finances. Is there anything you can share with me publicly regarding where our finances are and where those points are with the unions?
So essentially, we'll be sharing an update very similar to this one with each of the groups here in the coming weeks to keep them as apprised as possible. Similar with them as it is for council. The first 2 months of the year, the majority of the revenues that we get that come in July and August get accrued back to the previous fiscal year. And so giving them an idea of that is pretty much impossible. And so we will certainly do that as we get those numbers in and, essentially be updating them probably on a monthly basis, just as we will counsel with different pieces of information to try to paint as full of a picture as possible, and keep folks as informed as possible.
And you said the relative timeline is roughly a couple weeks or a couple months?
I believe that we actually have meetings planned on the calendar for the next couple of weeks with a bunch of our groups. And we will be essentially providing them, obviously they have access to the information that you all received this evening, as does the world. But we will be providing this similar information and have a similar conversation and answer any questions that anybody might have when we sit down to have the conversation. Okay.
And then for just a note for our city manager, considering that we, with SEIU and how conversations are going to go, if you can at least be involved in that initial conversation regarding anything in regards to finances, just to make sure that they know we're fully supportive of them. And then as far as, I wanted to ask in regards to the cannabis, we did have manufacturing open as well, right? We have some of our manufacturing businesses open and so forth, correct?
That's probably a better question for the city manager or, potentially the city attorney.
Yeah, I think we've only actually had one or two businesses actually open, even with all the manufacturing permits that have been issued. So they're really, it has been very slow for those businesses to open.
Okay. And then in regards to our Chamber of Commerce, have we been reaching out to them and making sure that they feel fully supported and how the small businesses are doing that are contributing to our sales tax?
I believe, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say this chamber CEO and I meet quarterly to catch up on issues of concern. And I know that he meets regularly with our economic development staff and other city staff members, development services. I also just got a text that there is only one manufacturing cannabis business open currently, and then the one retail dispensary downtown.
Okay. I do appreciate it. Thank you. No further questions at the moment.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Lamnon.
Thank you. Sorry, I just got word that there may be something going on medically with my family, and so I'm going to step out of the meeting as soon as I make just a quick couple comments. If I can come back, I will. If not, you'll understand why. The quick couple comments are, yes, I support fully funding our ARC. And if we can also keep a track of the property transfer, if that starts to climb, it may also be an indication of displacement in our community. And so we want, I've been saying that we need to start to develop some systems to be able to capture those properties so that we aren't displacing folks. That's a conversation for a different day, but just that indicator, while great for a financial picture, may be a negative for our community. And so something we can maybe keep track of at the same time, if I'm making sense.
Definitely so.
Okay. Thank you. Please excuse me. I'm sorry.
Everything's okay.
Thank you.
Okay, Councilmember Marquez.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Dustin and team, for the update. Will this information be updated on a monthly basis to the Budget and Finance Committee?
So we'll be bringing, like I said, different pieces of information so that it's not simply just, here's what you heard last month and here's a small change. There will be certain things like revenues that we are going to be focused on, and key revenues that we'll be focused on and monitoring and providing updates, as frequently as possible to both council and the Council Budget and Finance Committee.
Okay. I do appreciate this check-in. I know over the summer I asked for some of these numbers, so I appreciate being open and transparent with obviously the entire council gets the same information, but with the public and also very importantly, all of our bargaining groups. And City Manager, I believe when we went through the concession discussion, there was going to be a check-in. I don't remember if it was December or January. I know those conversations are going to be starting, but can you just kind of elaborate on that process? Because I know some of the furlough hours were going to be implemented as just initially a certain portion. We were going to check on in different revenue streams and revisit whether or not we would have to further extend any additional furlough hours. So can you just elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah, so I believe that it is after December 31st, because that is when we will have better, our property tax revenues come in one lump sum in December. So we'll have a sense of how those are coming in. And there were several revenues that were going to be used as indicators. And so it's a comparison of revenues last year. I think it was the time period is like September through November or so it's a comparative time frame. We won't revisit that until December or January of this year, but it was a series of the city's revenues that we would look at comparative numbers year over year.
Okay, and those comparisons are the same for all the bargaining groups that landed on the furlough option versus foregoing a COLA, correct? We're not using different parameters for different groups? I
believe so. I don't have all the side letters in front of me. Dustin, do you remember?
I thought there was one slight difference, and I can't recall off the top of my head.
It might have been CARES Act funding and the level of CARES Act funding that the city received. That might have differed slightly, but I think it's very property tax, sales tax, are the two key revenue streams for the city that we'll look at.
Okay.
And we've already had a conversation with each of the two groups who have, the potential for additional furlough hours, and we've got others scheduled. Obviously we can't do the actual comparison and let folks know until the periods that we're trying to compare have ended and we've got the information. But it was fairly straightforward as to how we would be able to verify the information that and what benchmarks that we'd be using. It was all in the side letter, so it should be pretty straightforward.
Okay, I appreciate that recap, and it's really important to me that we maintain that level of transparency and communication. I know that we're going to be going into labor negotiation with certain groups very soon. So just important to have all that information front and center and to be consistent in our messaging. And I'm glad that we're getting the additional sales tax. I just wish we would have had that insight prior to going to concessions. I think it would have made a bit of a difference. But we can course correct. That's why that language is in there in terms of doing the check-in. I also support Councilmember Mendo's comments with regard to paying down the meeting the annual ARC. I don't know if we'll necessarily hit that number, but I'm comfortable with attempting to. So any payments that we can make to bring that down is going to be important as well. And I'm wondering if there's any insight in regard to state or federal funding to help any of our businesses. We already know what's being done in terms of renter protections, and we know about not having to go through with evictions for commercial properties, but are we aware of any other additional funding to assist our struggling businesses in addition to everything going on with COVID? Just kind of seems like we're in this red phase now. We don't know how long we're going to be in this phase. So there's still a lot of uncertainty, but as staff, just want to make sure that we're working hard to see if there's any outside dollars that we could bring back to Hayward.
Yeah, I mean, we are certainly doing our best. I know both economic development and our community services teams are both constantly sort of monitoring and making sure, seeing what's out there and seeing what they can bring back to the city. I know that we've also, this is not specific to small businesses, but we're working hard to get reimbursement from FEMA. We've already got positive indications from them. What exactly that means, they didn't give a full insight of that. But we are trying to do everything that we possibly can to obviously help the community and the local economy.
Okay. And then are we still pushing for individuals that are interested in contributing to the Hayward Relief Fund? Is that still up and running?
I believe so.
Okay. Maybe we should announce that and do an update to the community just so they're aware that that fund is still accessible. And I know we wanted to allocate those grants, and I think like 300,000 allotment. So you don't have to answer me now, but if we could get an update on how close we are to making another disbursement, that would be helpful. And in terms of the other safety net programs, the COVID test site remains in place. We're still doing the food distribution. Do you foresee any changes with those initiatives?
The COVID testing site will continue through the balance of this fiscal year. That is the contract that we have with La Familia. The food distribution site, we are in the process of trying to figure out if there's another entity that can take over kind of more permanent management of it. So it kind of steers away from a volunteer-led program that is managed through the Emergency Operations Center, and that if there's an organization that can kind of take over the day-to-day. It's becoming a very large operation, and it needs to have more infrastructure now to be able to manage it.
Okay.
But we are continuing it for some period of time.
Okay. I appreciate all these updates. When will council have another check-in on the numbers? Will it be into December, early January?
Probably in the December timeframe, early December. If there are other updates that we can bring that are relevant, then simply the first quarter's revenues, we can potentially bring those at a sooner time. We just won't have much in the way of actual revenues that are attributable to July, August, September until the mid to late November timeframe.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Salinas.
So, Mr. Clausen, Ms. Gonzalez, Deputy Director Gonzalez was a student of mine. So I just wanted to say, she did a fantastic job, but you should also know, and also the city manager should know, I had nothing to do, there was nothing to do with math in my class. So, so she, but I'm still going to take credit for everything. First of all, thank you very much. As I was reading this, we're still pulling out of reserves, but less than we anticipated, and which is good. And I think I was reading the staff report, and as the year was progressing, starting in January and up until June, it just shows how everything is still not static, right? And there were some things that I was surprised to see the sales tax. I think the wafer case was a big deal. Everyone's at home ordering online now, and so that certainly helped us in a big deal. So I just wanted to say I absolutely agree with Councilmember Mindel. I think it was he and I that were I think the two on the council that were sort of the unrelenting. And I have to say, when I first got on the council, this OPEB number was large, it was growing. And structurally, and I think this is the big, sort of the caveat to the story, that structurally there was absolutely no filling the gap. I mean, and we had, it was, the future, the outlook looked grim. And so I think over the years, what we've done is we've done some great things over the years. And I have to, and I've said this before, and I'll say it again tonight. I think we've moved in the direction we have with the ARC, not by ourselves. it has been the heavy lifting of our employee groups. It's been the heavy lifting of the discipline of the council. It's been us focusing on, core services at critical times, during the years. And so anyways, I say that because, this, it is like a mortgage payment. It doesn't go away. And, and I would even make a case, and I know this is going to come back to us, and, but I know, and I'm not, chiding her at all on this, but Councilmember Marquez, when she said that, well, we may not be able to fund all of it, but we'll certainly try to get as close to that goal as possible, which is, fine. And I'm sure, that the the conversation will go in that direction. But I would want to say that I will probably be making the case then, as I am tonight, about we fully funding it. Because this is that expense nobody sees, nobody writes about, but it impacts the city in an incredible way, and it doesn't decrease. This expense does not go down, and it doesn't disappear. So anyways, I thank you for the work on this. I appreciate it. It was. If those at home are wondering what the mid-year financial situation is, download this report. And I think just read the first couple of pages, because I think the summary and the beginning of the discussion, I think, outlines it really well. So thank you for your work, and great job, Ms. Gonzalez. Thank you.
You made it, even though you were his student. Wow, that's very commendable. I'm good. I'm sure Councilmember Salinas is a great teacher. I will echo a lot of these comments, especially I agree, the paying down the ARC, if we can do that, that was a big concern of all of us, I think, when, we realized we were going to have a significant reduction in revenues due to the pandemic. And we still are probably facing some reduction in revenues, but I think you're hearing from us very strong feeling to get that paying that down helps save us more money in the long run too. So that's an important thing we want to do. I wanted to ask, there is a statement in the on page 2 of the staff report regarding sales and use tax, that the increase that we're seeing is primarily attributed to the one-time impacts of South Dakota versus Wayfair decision. But the revenues, we will be seeing revenues on an ongoing basis, correct?
Correct.
So what do you mean by that?
That was inaccurate. That was shouldn't have been there.
It's not one time, it's going to be ongoing, right?
It was. Okay. This was the first time that it happened, and so I think it was a misplaced word. Yep. First time.
But I'm glad to hear that, because my understanding was that's not going to go away. We're going to continue to see those revenues. Yeah, I will just say good work. And I think that we're all going to be anxious to hear, and I guess more in the December timeframe as to whether we are meeting those targets that were set in some of the agreements we made with our bargaining units, and how that's all going. So with that, I will just say thank you to staff, our finance department, for this report, and our city manager. And unless anyone has anything else to add, we will close this item and move on. I guess this was billed as a work session item, and I think you did get some direction. Is there anything else that you wanted from us out of this item?
No, this was purely an informational item for the council.
Okay. All right. Then we're going to move on to
Mayor Halliday, I'm sorry to interrupt, but if you wanted to open public comments at this point, we could make that announcement.
Probably should have done that before. Yes. Do we have anybody who wants to speak?
So I see we have attendees, but there are no requests to speak.
Yes. If you would like to comment on this item, please raise your hand.
And I don't see any hands raised. So you could go ahead and could close public comment.
All right, I'll close it. Thank you for reminding me of that. This brings us to item number 8. This is an item regarding some property that is located within 500 feet, at least some of this property is within 500 feet of my residence. And so therefore, I'm going to be recusing myself from this item and turning this part of the meeting over to Mayor Pro Tem Salinas. So I will be leaving, and someone here will notify me when it's time to come back. Mayor Pro Tem Salinas, take it away.
Thank you. I'd like to turn to City Manager McAdoo and see who's going to kick this off.
Sure. I think our Economic Development Specialist, Catherine Ralston, will be doing the presentation this evening.
Okay.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Just want to verify that you can see my screen here and hear me. My name is Catherine Ralston. I'm here to present tonight on the recommended approval of the disposition and development agreement and summary report for a new Subaru dealership. And this project would be located at the corner of Carlos B. and Mission Boulevard. So our staff recommendation for tonight is that the council holds a public hearing and adopts a resolution approving the Government Code Section 52201 summary report for the project and authorize the city manager to negotiate and execute a disposition and development agreement with the developer for the transfer of the properties for the development of the new dealership. So this project is one of the parcel groups, specifically parcel group 7 of the State Route 238 parcels. And here's a map showing all 9 of the parcel groups. As we zoom in closer, the project site is made up of 2 parcels. The larger parcel is parcel group 7 of the 238 project parcels. And there's a second parcel, which is a city-owned remnant parcel that was purchased originally for the widening of Mission Boulevard. And we are combining them all into one project site for this project. So just a little overview of it. This is a proposed new Subaru dealership, and it's will be a 57,000 square foot facility, which will have for the sale of vehicles and a large service center for all of the vehicles on the site. The dealership will be built on the lower 4.9 acres of the project. And it is estimated that it will be generating between $330,000 and $500,000 annually in new sales tax to the city to help pay for city services. The developer did submit a proposal to the planning department, and it did receive approval for the site plan. So this is an overview of that site plan. It shows the large building there at the center of the project. It is using 4.9 acres, and there are the 3 existing residential lots located along Carlos B, which are to remain and are not part of the project. The main vehicle entrance and exit for the project will be located on Mission Boulevard. So tonight we will review some of the key terms of the DDA, which includes our parties, the purchase price, property transfers, which I'll walk through in detail, the operating covenant, no financial assistance from the city for the project, and then the planning compliance. So the disposition and development agreement will be between the City of Hayward and BMODDRE2 LLC, which is the developer. They are a qualified car dealership developer and currently own a large dealership development in Arizona, as well as a dealership in Oakland, California. The purchase price is $5.4 million for the total 9.8 acre site, and that consists of both the city-owned parcel and that parcel group 7. That $5.4 million will be paid to Caltrans to meet the required purchase price per the 238 settlement agreements. So I'm going to walk through the property transfers. So the site is currently one large site, and under the Caltrans agreement, the city was not able to subdivide the sites and sell the large 9.8 acres to more than one developer. As we worked with the Subaru development, they determined that the 4.9 at the lower end of the site adjacent to Mission Boulevard was best suited for the dealership. And the zoning on the upper portion was zoned for residential. As the developer decided that they did not necessarily want that piece for any of the dealership development, the city decided to put a covenant on that upper portion, restricting it for future affordable housing. Because the Subaru developer is a commercial development and not an affordable housing developer, the city has proposed to swap that larger site for the smaller portion of commercial property that we also owned along Mission across the street, so at the northeast corner of Carlos B. And so that's shown here on the map. So we will be swapping the smaller portion for that larger piece up above. The adjacent parcel up above, which will be for future affordable housing, we would then go out and search for a developer to build that in the future. As part of the DDA, there is an operating covenant which will restrict the use of the dealership site for a first-class automobile sales and full-service auto repair facility for a term of 10 years. And this is really important because that then will make sure that we will be receiving that all needed sales tax for that period of 10 years. And it does need to be a first-class new automobile sales. It could not convert to a used automobile dealership. Also, the city is not providing any financial assistance to this project, and the dealership is being all built at the cost of the developer, and that'll be further detailed as part of our summary report. And then finally, planning compliance. The project does meet all of the city's general plan and the Mission Boulevard form-based zoning code for the development. So as part of the sale, the city is required to complete a summary report, which goes through the economic analysis of the sale and ensures that the city is selling it for an economic opportunity, that there's a common benefit for the city as a whole. This project will be creating new jobs. There will be approximately 400 to 500 temporary full-time construction jobs associated with the construction of the dealership. And then once it's open, they will have between 70 and 100 full-time permanent jobs. We'll also see an increase in property tax. The value currently on the property tax is $0 because it is held by a public agency, and the value will increase to that $5.4 million once the sale is completed, which will bring in approximately $54,000 each year, which is 1% of the assessed value. Once the building is built on the site, that property tax will increase as well. And then finally, the creation of affordable housing. Because we are applying the covenant on the adjacent parcel up above the dealership and restricting that to future development, we will also be seeing the benefits of a future affordable housing with the project. So once again, our staff recommendation is hold the public hearing and then adopt the resolution, approving the summary report, and also authorizing the city manager to negotiate and execute the disposition and development agreement with BMO DDRE2 LLC for the transfer of the properties and for the development of the new Subaru dealership. Our next steps is we will be executing the development agreement if approved tonight, and then we are hoping to close on the property transfers here in the first couple weeks of October. Construction is also scheduled to begin in early October once the property transfers are complete, and the hope is to open that dealership fall 2021. I'm available for questions, as is the developer. They are online tonight if you have any additional questions for them.
Thank you, Mr. Alston. Now, of course, I did not have my participants list on, so I don't know who chimed in first, second, or third. So what I will do is I will just go starting at the top and I'll work down. In my top, I'm seeing Council Member Zedmeño, if you have any questions.
Okay, thank you. Let's see, good presentation, Catherine. Thank you very much. I do have 3 quick questions. Number 1, just so that everybody knows, what is being planned for the small lot across the street on Mission the piece that we're swapping? What's being planned there?
So at this time, the developer is just going to use the site as it's been used the past previous years as vehicle storage. They're not proposing any improvements at this time. It will just be overflow storage for vehicles. There'll be some minor improvements with fencing improvements and painting the existing building. In the future, if they want, they can come in and submit a new plan that would go through the planning approval. But at this point, nothing major.
All right, so make sure that we can get rid of that ugly chain link fence that surrounds that, please, and that they do some landscaping and really make it look nice so that it mirrors what they're going to do across the street. So that's very important. Any ideas when this affordable housing might be built? Are we thinking 1 year, 2 years? Are we thinking next month? So what kind of a timeline do we have, or have we thought about it?
Go ahead. Oh, go ahead.
On the affordable housing piece of it, the city would have to go out for an RFP to developers and submit proposals. So we haven't started that process yet. That would probably take place later, I would think, in 2021. And then they would have to go through the full entitlement process. So affordable housing development would probably be a couple years out.
All right, so the sooner the better, please. Everybody is needing those. And then also there are 3 houses which are not part of the project. And these folks are going to be surrounded by caterpillars, by land movers, so what measures are we taking to ensure that they are not bothered as they probably will be bothered? Okay, how can we mitigate? How we're going to mitigate this?
So there are hours of construction that the project is subject to, and we are also working with engineering and public works to determine the best way for the construction to access the site. We are looking to possibly have the primary access for all construction traffic coming off of Mission Boulevard, and then the Carlos B would all be secondary access, but we're just verifying all of the traffic patterns. In addition, there's always dust mitigation. And the applicant and the construction team has already been out and meeting the tenants and providing their contact information. So there is an on-site construction manager there. He has actually just moved to Hayward. So he is now locally there and he will be there every day. And they have his direct contact as well if there's any issues that pop up. So they have a direct contact with the construction team.
That was going to be my follow-up question. So you beat me to it. Those are my 3 questions. Thank you very much.
Mr. Mendel.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. So I wanted to follow up on the estimates for the revenue to the city. And I did see the response. I submitted a question ahead of time. I see the response from staff, but I think it may still not be 100% right, or maybe I'm missing something. So I'm assuming that the Measure C half-cent sales tax applies to auto sales, right?
I think that's our understanding. This is Deputy City Manager Jennifer. Mm-hmm.
But it only applies if you are a Hayward resident who is buying a car at the dealership, is my understanding. Because it's a district sales tax, so but I don't know. I don't think our finance director is still on. We can there. Maybe he's still,
okay.
Dustin's still here. He can help clarify that maybe a little bit.
I'm here.
Hi.
So that's accurate. The sales tax that individuals pay on a car follows wherever their zip code is. So if their zip code is in a different city, they will not be paying that district sales tax. They'll still pay any applicable county taxes, the state, and we'll get the state share, that goes into for any transaction, but certainly not any of the district taxes.
Okay, so if somebody who lives in San Leandro goes down to this dealership, buys a car, they pay the sales tax, and the city will get 1% of the value of the sale,
correct,
right, as our sales tax. If I go there, I live in Hayward, if I go there and buy the same car, then the city's going to get 1.5%.
That's accurate.
Right. Okay. So okay. Then the last point I'll make then is that it appears that the estimate for revenue to the city or benefit to the city doesn't include that extra ½ on some percentage of the sales there. And we don't know what that is exactly. And so I'll acknowledge it's a little hard to estimate, but that would suggest to me that the estimates provided in the staff report and in the response to my questions are still on the low side, that there'll be some percentage of their sales will be to Hayward residents, which means that some of them will get charged 1.5%, or that extra ½ and that will come to the city. And so we're looking at something more probably like 400,000 to 600,000 as the range rather than 330 to 500.
We hope so.
Yeah, we hope so. All right. Well, I'm being optimistic, I'll acknowledge, but okay. Thank you for the clarification. That was my only question.
Councilmember Wahab.
Thank you. So I just wanted to understand a couple things, if you could provide some clarity. There was no CEQA review.
This, just to be clear, so there's always CEQA review on any project. You go through the process of determining how to comply with the California Environmental Quality Act. In this case, the project was exempt because of the size of the parcel and the project, and so it was exempt from CEQA.
Okay, and the parcel was split in two, correct?
Yeah, I mean the project is on the lower parcel.
Okay, and that's 4.9 acres.
Correct.
And if it was 5 acres, we would eventually do the review, correct?
Eventually, I don't think it would be eventually. We would, if it were over 5 acres, then the particular exemption that we relied upon, we would not have been able to rely on that exemption. We would have had to do a different type of review. But
okay. And then the piece above the hill, is that what could we have done with that? Would that not have been more valuable to the city?
Well, I think our focus is on, because of the subdivision with Caltrans, was to create an adjacent parcel that would provide a public benefit to the community by providing affordable housing.
Okay. And we decided to change the layout, if you will, just to make it a little bit more clear, correct?
I don't think we changed. I'm not sure what you mean by layout, but I think we tried to honor the zoning that was on the existing parcel. The upper portion was a residentially zoned parcel, and the lower portion is commercially zoned. So I think what we tried to do was present a project that was consistent with the existing zoning.
Okay. Now, the neighbors in that area, we have had individuals reach out to us in regards to, let's say, protect those residents in that area, primarily from the construction, things like that. It's a little bit of a burden in that area, to ensure that their driveway is not utilized for construction. What is exactly happening? What is the plan?
I think we would only allow access to the site from the property itself. So they will have to access the site from their property. And as was mentioned by Catherine Ralston, was that we are looking with the Transportation Engineering Department at how we can try to shift as many of those trips onto Mission as we can. But Mission also has a lot of traffic flow, and so we want to be careful about our review and make sure we're not creating unintended consequences there. So we're still reviewing that, but we're going to really try to shift as many of those trips off of Carlos B and away from the residents as we can.
Okay, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Ms. Councilmember Marquez.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Thank you, staff, for the updated information. It's exciting to finally be at this point. Have we had any conversations with the applicant? And I don't know if the applicant can answer this, but what is their goal and their intent with regard to local hire, whether they're going to be using local trades as well as recruiting once the dealership is open for employment opportunities for Hayward residents? Was that discussed at all with the applicant?
We did not have directly those conversations. The applicant is an attendee. If you'd like to have them promoted, we can and ask them that question. Miriam, do you want to, there's two, Devin McCafferty and Nick Cosenza. I think it looks like they're being promoted.
Hey, how's it going? This is Devin. I don't know if anybody can hear me.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Can hear you.
Yeah. Basically, it's we're trying to do everything local. Community is what our family's all about. Our family came up to the Bay about 8 years ago, and we've been investing in it heavily. My sister lives up here. My brother lives up here. We have a dealership in Oakland. Everybody we hire up here, we're trying to create opportunity for in the local community and give back to the area that we're working with. With that being said, with construction as well, Slater Construction is our contractor, and they are using a ton of local contractors. We actually had the pre-meeting with them last week out on the site, and it was killer to see 60 people spread out in a massive circle, all local. They all knew each other. They've all done a ton of work together. It inspired a ton of confidence on my behalf, but our full intention is to give back to the community and work with it and grow it.
Thank you. I'm glad to hear that. And are those conversations being held with the building trades as well?
Yep, absolutely. Slater's in charge of, and that's who I was referring to, those building trades. Those are the people that are also meeting there. So it's cool to see on all levels. So not just the land surveying, but also construction, interior fixtures and whatnot.
Mm-hmm. And I know that Subaru has a philanthropy arm. I believe I've seen vehicles. If you purchase a vehicle, you get to designate where you want a contribution to go towards. Can you just speak to that a little bit, and then maybe kind of what your thoughts are in terms of being a long-term partner here in the city of Hayward?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad you asked. So, and that's actually why we were chosen for Subaru, is because we're not the typical just old school car dealer. We are a family owned, operated business. We're normal people. And with that being said, we understand we have a responsibility to help one another and help our neighbors. So Subaru's Love Promise is a commitment that they're absolutely dialed in and dedicated to 100%. The other thing that they do that's extremely interesting is they match 70 cents per dollar of your local, essentially marketing or community investment. So that's something that we're going to take 100% full advantage of as well. So I can't wait to be a part of it. And the Love Promise thing is massive, and giving back to your community and community involvement. I haven't been a Subaru dealer yet, and so I haven't gotten the opportunity to go through the program. So I can't speak to that point probably as articulately as I'd like to at this point.
Thank you, but it's something you're interested in, you'll look further into. So I appreciate that comment. I had another question with regard to, there are 2 residential properties on Carlos B. Can you give us the confidence that you'll work collaboratively with them? I am worried about construction and just being disruptive to their day-to-day life. So what are your thoughts about being a good neighbor?
Yeah, I mean, I'm totally right there with you. I mean, we want problems as much as they do. You know what I mean? So this is, believe it or not, we've been in this project almost 4 years already. So any speed bumps, hurdles, issues that I have to deal with or the construction team has to deal with sets us back huge. And then ethically, they are our neighbors. So what we're trying to do is create a Subaru trademark and basically world-class location. There happens to be homes there. When we approached them to buy them, they wanted astronomical money. As things progress, maybe that changes. We're always going to be fair and available to work with them.
Okay, great. Thank you for answering my questions. I appreciate it. And can staff just briefly share the land swap? Did we do an appraisal? I just want to ensure, I know there's a lot of revenue coming to the city, but I just want to make sure we properly did our due diligence to make sure that this is the highest and best use.
Yeah, we looked at a number of different sources of sales comps and different land sales. Also, the site that we're swapping is much larger than the one down below is zoned residential, whereas the other zone primarily commercial. And so we did look very carefully at land sale comparisons and numbers, the acquisition price. And so we looked at all of that to determine that it was an in-kind and fair swap.
Okay. And in regard to noticing going out to the surrounding neighborhood, have we gotten any more comments or any more feedback from the community at large?
Catherine, we did, as part of the site plan review, there was a notice that was sent out, 500-foot radius, and there was no appeal. No one filed an appeal for the project approvals. We also sent out emails prior to, I think a couple weeks ago, this was noticed to be on the agenda, and then we sent an email out to our 238 list again. So we've put notices out there to make people aware of this, and so we have not received any further comments.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. I just had two questions, I had two questions. And I don't know if Ms. Ralston can answer this or Mr. McCafferty, but when I first saw this project, this was a sort of a concept, kind of a theme project for the U.S. Park Service. And I just wanted to make sure that that's still the intended vision for this dealership.
Yep. So go for it, Catherine.
Yeah, so the outside has changed a little bit. It's more in line with the Subaru's model and their formatting on the outside. But you will see a lot of those unique features on the interior. So the interior, they're working through all of that, but it will have, a wall, a rock wall, and some really cool features on the interior still. But the outside, Subaru wanted to look a little bit more like their standard brand image.
Okay. And the other, and I know everyone's talked about it, but, what I would like to ask the city manager and, of course, deputy city manager ought to really think about is the entrance and exit coming off of Mission Boulevard. If we could do that, I think it would just make a lot of people happy. And I know Mission is, I drive up and down Mission every day, and I know there's a lot of construction going on up and down Mission Boulevard. But if you can just get with engineering and figure out a way that we can do that, I think it would ease a lot of heartburn in the next year.
We are already having those conversations, and we will work hard to try to really minimize.
And then
Mark, you froze for a minute.
Yeah, you froze. We lost you there for a second.
Yeah. So I just wanted to just make sure that, if we can just figure out an entrance and exit from Mission Boulevard, that'd be great. It'll just save us a lot of heartburn in the future. And then an off-road track from Mission Boulevard up to Cal State East Bay. And again, that's not part of the project. That's a no.
I don't even have to ask the applicant that. I'm pretty sure that's not in the books right now.
Okay. All right. Okay. So if there are no other questions from council, I'd like to move to public comments and see if there are any public comments. Madam City Clerk, are there any public comments?
Yes, Mayor Pro Temp. Do we have any public comments? We have attendees, but no one is requesting to speak at the moment.
Okay. Moving from public comments, I'd like to come back to council and see if there are any other questions or motions. Council Member Marquez.
I'm happy to move the item.
Moved by Council Member Marquez, seconded by Council Member Mendel.
And can I say?
Yeah, sure, of course.
Thank you. So I really appreciate Devin McCafferty's comments I hope you keep your word. We've had a little record here of people not keeping their word, so we are going to hold you to it. But we're really excited. Hopefully this project gets approved, and really excited about the economic opportunities for our community and your partnership with the building trades, and really having an emphasis on local hire, as well as being a long-term partner in terms of giving back to the community. So with that, I'm happy to move the item.
Any other, the seconder?
So it was actually Councilmember Mendel, Councilmember Zermano who seconded it.
Oh, Councilmember Zermano, sorry. Does the seconder have a comment? No? Okay. So if there are no more comments, Councilmember Wahab had a comment.
Thank you. So, you know, I definitely want to see projects happen in Hayward. And one of the considerations I do just want to share with our staff is primarily the residents that live in that area, the students, the basically tenants and so forth, and the homeowners, with increased traffic and with some of the impacts we see in construction. You know, you see, you know, as was stated, you know, big caterpillars coming up and down the street and so forth. If we can kind of prioritize their, I guess, peace in during this moment when we're going to have a lot of the construction. I also just want to see and make sure that their plans are viable also in regards to ensuring reduction of traffic. You know, that is something that we see consistently in the city of Hayward. We do have our infrastructure is kind of not yet there for heavy use, if you will. And that particular area, Mission in general, is just a heavily used street that's very much a highway for a lot of people. So if we can just prioritize the piece for the residents and so forth, I would like that to be a priority in any of the construction, as well as how the, and Devin, I'd like to speak directly to you as well. Also just how customers come and go, any plans around that as well. So I just want to highlight those two things. It is a big priority for our residents in Hayward, a big priority for me as well. That area is heavily impacted, and I don't want it to be negatively impacted any further. So just highlighting that. I look forward to the business and hopefully as some of you guys are trying to give back, also potentially have some deals strictly for Hayward residents. If you're a college kid or if you're a teacher or anything like that, I think that would be a plus for a lot of Hayward folks. So just my 2 cents. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Wahab. So if there are no other questions, moved by Councilmember Marquez, seconded by Councilmember Zermano, Madam City Clerk, if you can call the roll.
Yes, Mayor Pro Tem. Thank you. Councilmember Lamnin. I don't believe she has rejoined. I
No,
just
she has
to
not.
double check. No. All right. Thank you. Councilmember Marquez.
Aye.
Councilmember Mendel.
Yes.
Councilmember Wahab.
Yes.
Councilmember Zermano.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Salinas.
Yes.
And that's with Mayor Halliday recusing herself. Thank you.
Yes. So, Madam City Manager, if you can text the
Yes.
mayor back in.
I just asked her to rejoin the meeting.
Also in the
so she should
meantime, if you can, maybe text Councilmember Lamnin and just do a check-in, make sure everything's okay. Thank you.
Absolutely. She should be. Hopefully I will.
Great job, Councilmember Salinas.
I try.
She should be joining momentarily.
So I see Professor Amiri has logged on. So we're about to, something big is about to happen. That's all I know. Something big and expensive. That's all I know. That's all I know.
Mary Halliday, if you could unmute yourself. Thank you.
All right. Hello, everybody. I am now back. I see that the other item is over. And I have to say that item number 9 has been continued to October 6th. That was regarding Huntwood Avenue and Patrick Avenue traffic calming. And adoption of a resolution approving pavement striping improvements. So that item will be continued to October 6th. And we will move on to item number 10 this evening, which is our 2020 Bicycle and Pedestrian Master Plan. Adoption of a resolution accepting this plan. And on that, we will, I believe, start off with a report by our Public Works Director, Mr. Ameri.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor, council members. Our senior transportation engineer, Sharman Sola, is here tonight to present the item. Sharman?
Hello, can you all hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
And you can see the presentation?
Yes.
Okay. So good evening, council members. It is my pleasure to be presenting the long anticipated 2020 Bicycle and Pedestrian Master Plan. Tonight, I will be discussing the master plan overview, vision and goals, public engagement, the analyses that went into the plan, the recommendations, and lastly, our next steps. The 2020 Bicycle and Pedestrian Master Plan updates the city's 2007 Bicycle Master Plan, of which did not contain a pedestrian element. So with excitement, I am pleased to announce that this 2020 Master Plan inaugurates the city's first ever pedestrian master plan. The master plan supports several complete street policies adopted by council. It supports the mobility element and guiding principle 7 of the 2040 general plan, the Complete Streets Strategic Initiative adopted in 2013, and the strategic priority for improving infrastructure, project number 8 to implement the Bicycle and Pedestrian Master Plan, adopted earlier this year. Last, but certainly not least, the master plan provides an overview of potential implementation costs and identifies funding sources to move these investments forward. A lot of effort went into the preparation of the master plan. Vision and goals for the plan were solidified to create a foundation. Existing conditions were analyzed to determine network recommendations. An implementation plan was formulated, and finally, feedback on the draft plan was solicited from the Council Infrastructure Committee, Planning Commission, and the public. The first phase in preparing the master plan was identifying the vision and goals. The overarching vision of the Bike and Ped Master Plan is to design safe, comfortable, convenient, and connected alternatives to vehicles for everyone, regardless of their age or ability. Additionally, the master plan has 4 primary goals: to improve safety, to design complete streets, provide continuous and connected access and mobility, and to identify funding for existing and future transportation needs. The second phase in preparing the master plan was conducting public engagement and participation. Public and stakeholder engagement was initiated early in the development process. Several pop-up events where the public could provide comments piggybacked on existing planned events, such as summer movies on the plaza, the downtown Hayward Street Party, and Bike to Work Day. Outreach included 3 well-attended walk audits, where community members were able to interact with each other and project staff while experiencing the walking and biking environment in various areas of Hayward. An online interactive wiki map was posted on the project webpage and advertised through social media for members of the public who wanted to provide input but were unable to attend in-person events. Additionally, a technical advisory committee comprised of various city departments and several key community representatives was established to gain collective feedback. The Technical Advisory Committee met 5 times during the development of the master plan, including once via video conference this past May. Analyses on the existing bicycle and pedestrian facilities were performed and used to develop master plan recommendations. As these maps are very, very tiny, I'm not expecting anyone to be able to read these. However, I do want to focus the attention on the depth that went into studying safety for this plan. Historical pedestrian and bicycle collision data over a 5-year period were analyzed to capture safety trends citywide. Results are mapped with descriptive findings summarizing the factors, severity, and temporal nature of collisions and used to identify high injury corridors. These findings help determine which areas to prioritize for safety improvements. If you love maps as much as I do, then you're in luck. There's no shortage of maps in this master plan. Again, please don't strain your eyes trying to read these. The reasonably sized maps are in the report. If you'd like to read them. Again, I'd like to focus on the analysis performed, but this time to ensure citywide multimodal connectivity. An essential part of complete streets design is infrastructure to support bicycle and pedestrian connections to public transportation. The 2 largest transit providers in Hayward are BART for rail service and AC Transit for bus service. All AC Transit bus stops in Hayward were mapped, and the top 20 stops in terms of daily ridership were identified. Additionally, a level of traffic stress map was developed. Level of traffic stress is a measure given to a roadway segment indicating the traffic stress it imposes on bicyclists. It is based on the premise that a person's level of comfort on a bicycle increases with separation from vehicular traffic and is negatively impacted as traffic volumes and speeds increase. The green on the level of stress map indicates a low level of stress roadway segment, while the red on the map indicates a high level of stress roadway segment. It is important to note that Hayward's street network is predominantly comprised of low-stress residential streets. The connections among those low-stress routes are key in promoting biking and multimodal transportation throughout Hayward. Prioritization criteria for project recommendations were developed based on national best practices and in cooperation with the Technical Advisory Committee. The prioritization criteria comprise of 5 factors: safety, equity, connectivity, health, and public input. These factors were given weights and were used to calculate scores for all roadway segments in the city. The road segments were then ranked by these scores to create a priority list. And then master plan recommendations were identified. The master plan provides a citywide network of bicycle facility recommendations. The bicycle recommendations map provides the big picture of the city's vision and goal and will serve as a blueprint for the city when designing complete streets. This map also helped verify that there are no gaps in the proposed network and that citywide connectivity is achieved. The master plan recommends a total of 32 miles of Class 1 bicycle facilities. Class 1 facilities are typically off-street shared bicycle paths with minimal or no vehicular crossflow. The plan also recommends 35 miles of Class 2 bicycle facilities, which are typically implemented as on-street bike lanes. The master plan also recommends 18 miles of Class 3 bicycle boulevards, which are usually implemented by bicycle share pavement markings, and 68 miles of Class 4 separated bike facilities. These Class 4 facilities are on-street bike lanes that have a vertical element of separation, just like the new bicycle facility installed on Mission Boulevard, south of Guerin Avenue. The pedestrian network was developed in tandem with the recommended bicycle network using a complete streets approach. Pedestrian treatments are recommended to be implemented along the recommended bicycle network. In this way, when near-term or longer-term improvements are being identified, bicycle and pedestrian improvements can be planned for, designed, and implemented together. These pedestrian facilities were recommended based on the street's typology for residential, collector, or arterial streets. 6 different pedestrian facilities, ADA curb ramps, high visibility crosswalks, rectangular rapid flashing beacons, signal improvements, sidewalk extensions, and pedestrian hybrid signals were recommended. For example, the ADA curb ramps in the purple box, the lower right corner, and the high visibility crosswalks in the red box are recommended for all 3 of the aforementioned roadway types. While rapid flashing beacons in the orange box and the signal improvements in the blue box are recommended only for collector and arterial streets, not for residential streets. Sidewalk extensions in the yellow box and pedestrian hybrid beacons in the green box are only recommended along arterial roads. This approach reflects that more infrastructure is needed to support a safe and comfortable walking environment along higher volume and higher speed roadways. As part of this plan, policies and programs that would help the city implement the recommendations were identified. The master plan focuses on 5 main categories of program and policy recommendations. The infrastructure and operations category elaborates on items such as signal timing improvements and bike parking. The evaluation and planning category provided recommendations for things such as an Americans with Disabilities Act compliance checklist. The funding category discusses strategies for obtaining funding for these recommended projects. The construction policies elaborate on guidance for accommodating bicyclists and pedestrians through construction zones. Lastly, the education and enforcement category focused on coordination with Alameda County's Safe Routes to School program and increased enforcement of traffic laws. Now I will discuss the city's next steps. After complete street recommendations were identified, we calculated how much this would all cost. A range for the bicycle recommendation cost estimates is provided to account for potential low cost and high cost implementation scenarios for Class 4 separated bikeways, as shown in orange on the bar graph. Low-cost implementation of a Class 4 facility includes signing, striping, and flexible vertical barriers. High-cost implementation of a Class 4 separated bikeway consists of concrete and landscape barriers. And the facility on Mission Boulevard is an example of the high-cost implementation. This brings a total implementation cost for recommended bicycle facilities to $21.7 million to $39 million. While the total cost for implementing all bicycle facilities identified in the master plan ranges from $21.7 million to $39 million, the total cost for pedestrian facilities is approximately $61.2 million, and the total cost for transit improvements is approximately $9.6 million. This brings the total cost range of all the recommended complete street recommendations identified in this master plan to approximately $92.5 million to $111 million. Based on the city's financial realities, implementation of the proposed complete streets network and programs will obviously occur over time, dependent on available funding sources. Our challenge now is to secure funding for these improvements. Staff has recently secured funding for a few of the recommended complete street projects identified in the master plan. A complete street project on Mission Boulevard from Industrial Parkway to Harder, which is going to be an extension of Mission Boulevard Phase 2, is being funded through a grant awarded by the Bay Area Air Quality Municipal District. The city's first protected intersection at Hesperian Boulevard and West A Street is being funded through local Measure B and Measure BB funds. Complete street improvements on Patrick Avenue and Gadding Road is being funded through a TDA Article 3 grant awarded from the Metropolitan Transportation Commission. Lastly, the Safe Routes for Seniors downtown improvements will be funded through Measure BB funds. Staff continues to apply for grant funding. 2 applications are in the works, which are the Highway Safety Improvement Program grant and the Active Transportation Program grant, both offered by Caltrans. The good news is that grant applications are generally more competitive when a project or need is identified in a current master plan. And current in most of these grant applications is defined as a plan that has been adopted within the last 5 years of the grant application submission date. This concludes my presentation on the Bicycle and Pedestrian Master Plan tonight. It is staff's recommendation that council adopts the 2020 Bicycle and Pedestrian Master Plan. And thank you. I'm available to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you so much. And thank you. I'm so glad to see this plan. I'm sure we all are. It's been a long time coming. Although I will note that you did a good job of describing how a lot of what's in this plan is already, has been in other plans that the city has developed, and a lot of work has already been done. So I'm going to open the public hearing. I'm sorry. First, this is a legislative item. I'm going to ask council if you have any questions at this point, not comments, but questions to ask Ms. Sola or Mr. Ameri. Yes, okay. I'm seeing that we have Council Member Zermano.
Okay, all right. So this is a master plan, and as an avid walker and biker, I like it. So my first question, since it's already a master plan for 5 years, so I would like to know if it's possible to go beyond 153 miles of improved streets. So we might as well go for broke. I remember, so anyway, so that's one. Can we up the number of streets? We have 360 miles of streets in Hayward, so this is less than 50% of our streets. I don't know, Mr. Ameri and Ms. Soya.
I can. Sorry.
Go ahead, Sharman.
I can touch base on this. So this is actually a 5-year master plan. The 5-year comes from being considered a recently adopted plan for grant applications. But yeah, this plan definitely focuses on improvements for near term and long term. But we do want to, the plan offers a priority list, lets us know which streets should get the bicycle facilities first and in what order. And although this doesn't recommend bicycle facilities on all the streets in Hayward, what will remain after this plan are the low stress level streets, like in the residential areas, which most people feel comfortable already biking and walking.
Okay, so I guess that's a no. All right, well, I'm trying. Alex, you sound like you want to say something.
No, I just wanted to confirm what Sharman said. Okay. Many of our streets are very local residential streets, and there is nothing that is needed to be done to encourage bicycling there.
We're talking about $100 million. I thought, let's go for broke. Okay, on that one slide that speaks of the level of travel stress map, there's a lot of green in it, and there are a couple of red lines. I wanted to know if it's possible that we can have more. Is it possible to have more of our streets painted green for bicycles? That was a beautiful map with all those greens. Could you imagine our street green?
Sharman, let me take that. Many of the red lines that you see are high volume, like either state highways or high volume streets. Okay. One of them is Mission Boulevard, and we already have bike lanes on 2 segments of Mission Boulevard. Right. Our goal right now is to improve bikeability on Mission by adding something to phase 1 that was constructed without bike lanes. And as Sharman mentioned, there is some possibility to add at low cost bike lane to a segment of Mission Boulevard between Industrial and Harder. The lane there is 22 foot wide. It doesn't need to be that wide. We can take some of it for adding a bike lane at a cost of $250,000, which we have identified some funding for already.
Right. It's just that the green feels safer to a bicycle rider. Okay. The trails, right? The trails on the left of this map, by the bay, they are all linked. Are they all linked?
Not all of them are linked, but we are working on completing the links.
All right, so that's okay. That's a very good one. Any thoughts on, while we're speaking of bicycles, there is only one bicycle shop in the city of Hayward. There's nothing at all on Tennyson Road, South Hayward. Is there any? Does the city have any friends, any connections, anyone with whom we could speak about maybe setting up a repair shop on South Hayward on Tennyson? Is that something to work with the Economic Development Department?
Councilmember Zermano, you remember that for a while we had 2 bicycle shops next to one another on Foothill, and they didn't last. So our idea of build it and they come is that we do all these bike lanes, we encourage bicycling, we increase the number of people that want to bike, and that is going to hopefully bring more bicycle shops and bicycle repair shops to the city.
Okay, so I'll try to talk with Paul about maybe finding somebody to set up on Tennyson Road. So $100 million, does this mean that you're looking for more money somewhere out there besides those 2 grants?
So we absolutely. We are always searching for more money. And I think that we have a tool now in our toolbox, which is a brand new master plan for pedestrian and bicyclists. And we are going to, as they say, leave no stone unturned in terms of looking for opportunities for more grants. We also have Measure B and BB, those portions of Measure B and BB that are dedicated to pedestrian and bicycle. And we are going to use some of that money also for increasing bike lanes and improving pedestrian safety and access.
All right. And let's also work, I didn't really see anything about trying to take over the railroad tracks that run next to BART tracks and make that into a nice bicycle trail that will connect Union City to Oakland. Is that somewhere in the plan?
So that's a plan, and I am hoping that Fred Kelly, our transportation manager, is online here and can add some information.
Okay, but that's okay.
Are you online?
Oh, I can do it really quickly, Council Members. The Alameda County Transportation Commission has a project, the East Bay Greenway project, that is, they are actively searching for funding for that particular project. They are in the design phase, but they're working with UP to relinquish right-of-way and to secure permanent funding for actual construction.
And of course, the other benefit of that, it would clean that whole section because it's full of garbage. Charmaine, Mr. Mary, thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Councilmember Zervino. And yes, I will echo that about the East Bay Greenway. It is a project that the ACTC is really working on. But as you know, it can be a little bit difficult to work with Union Pacific, for one thing, as far as the property acquisition needs for that. But I'll try to keep you posted on how that's coming along. Next, we have Councilmember Salinas. Mayor Pro Tem Salinas. Mayor Pro Tem Salinas seem to be.
Councilmember Salinas has been having some technical difficulties. He mentioned earlier, and I think he's on now.
Okay. Can you talk now? Can we hear you? Yeah, we can.
Thank you. Two relative short questions. First of all, I want to say thank you. This is, I know the Infrastructure Committee, we've been sort of tracking this and sort of following along with this. And my short questions aren't necessarily that I'm not interested in this. It's like I think we've asked and answered a lot of questions in committee, and so but I do have 2 questions. The first question is, we got a letter from Susie Hofstetter, and it was nice that she fully supports the plan. And, it was also nice to see that she was, essentially with us, virtually meeting to meeting to meeting, virtually every step of the way. So I think that's a lot of commitment. And so I think that's fantastic. And so I just wanted to follow up with 2 questions on her letter that she gave us. One, her comment about a designated transportation planner. And my question is, if there's any, openings in the out years, either preferably in the short term, if there is an opening in the transportation department, is it feasible to keep an eye out for a planner who specifically focuses on transportation? We may already have one, and I may not know, but is that a possibility? Is that feasible?
If I may answer that question, because if I let Fred answer that, he's going to say, yes, we need one. We have a transportation planner that was on leave for a short while. and she's back right now. Her title is transportation planner. We are going to use her talent and skills in this. And from time to time, we assess our needs. And if there is a need for any staff changes, we are going to go through the city manager and to council and ask for that.
Okay, great. And then the second question I have is, I really liked her idea regarding, taking a corridor and, applying the plan and, some of the recommendations in the plan and focusing on a specific corridor and building up that corridor. And so my question is, I know we already have strategic initiatives, the Tennyson corridor and, Harder and some other areas, but, could we focus in on Tennyson or on Harder or, I know it's going to come up in a little bit, the Gadding Patrick Avenue corridor and really focus on these small corridors, apply some of the elements of the plan and have it sort of the showcase of the plan where if we want to build, if we want to seek funding later down the road, we can kind of show off this corridor with all of the, all of the wonderful elements that we have in the plan. Would that be something that we could, possibly do in the short term?
Absolutely, and that's a great comment. But by way of an example, I can offer Mission Boulevard. Phase 2 is being done right now with the bike lanes that are protected. Phase 3, which is going to go to construction in the next couple of months, is going to have a cycle track, which is going to be the first one in the city that is dedicated to bicyclists. And actually, the county is actually emulating that plan and is going to extend the cycle track into the county area in San Lorenzo. So yes, there are opportunities to go ahead and do that, and we will examine them and bring them to you for guidance.
Great. And, my last question is, as we examine, future, potential spots, if I could put a pitch in, I think the Gadding Patrick Avenue would be a great corridor to really, build up. And if you would consider that, that would be wonderful. Thank you.
We would be bringing that to you next week, actually.
All right. Thank you. Again, we're questions. Councilmember Marquez.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Sharman, for the detailed presentation and all your great work. It's been exciting to get the updates on the Infrastructure Committee. I just have a couple questions. Can you remind me on who was part of the technical advisory group? Was that solely City of Hayward employees, or did we have outside participants as well?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Yes, we had outside participants as well. We had Kim Huggett from the Chamber of Commerce. We had representatives from other cities, Union City, San Leandro, and BART representative, AC Transit representative. I can't remember all of them, but they are all listed in the plan and the specific people's names. But there are several external key stakeholders that were part of the Technical Advisory Committee.
Okay. It is the thought behind that to have more of a regional approach as other cities start updating their plans, just to have that continuity?
Yes. Sorry. So I actually pulled up a list. In addition to what I've already mentioned, we had representatives from ACTC, Alameda County Public Works, Caltrans, District 4, HARD, Hayward Unified School District, and United Merchants of Downtown Hayward. Yes, and so a lot of the transit improvements were identified in coordination with AC Transit, the improvements around the interchanges, for example, were coordinated with Caltrans, and we're currently talking to the City of Union City because they're in the process of preparing their master plan at the moment.
Okay, great. And you mentioned referring to data with regard to fatalities and accidents in our community. How far back did we look? Was it 5-10 years back? What's that touch point look like?
We looked at a 5-year period. We try not to look too far back because improvements may have changed the conditions and so may not necessarily be applicable to today's intersection.
Okay, so I'm gonna hold. I was gonna make comments, but I'm gonna stick to questions. It feels like a work session. Sorry. And our staff is actively seeking grants, and as you mentioned, once this plan is approved, it'll make it a lot easier we'll be considered a more viable candidate, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Those are all my questions for now, Mayor. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I don't see any other council hands up. I want to ask, as we're approving any new developments, and I know we don't have a lot of huge new developments, we've used up a lot of land, but are we applying these principles in new developments as we're going through the planning documents and everything? Are we asking developers to? And I realize that when you're doing a development, it's like a neighborhood streets and they're not the high priority. But I was looking at those bulb outs that you were showing and thinking, what a great idea to keep people from speeding through neighborhoods. And are we doing any work with new developers to get them to incorporate some of these principles into their development?
Yes, we are. Right now, the example that comes to mind is the corner of Industrial and Mission, for example, the old Holiday Bowl. So they're finishing the last block on Mission Boulevard between Industrial and Garin, and also installing a Class 4 facility on Industrial for that first block south of Mission.
Great, thank you. Okay, I'm now going to open the public hearing on this item, and I think we might actually have some speakers. Is that
Yes, Madam Mayor.
Yeah, I have to tell you,
I'm happy to.
Go ahead. If I suddenly disappear, and Mayor Pro Tem Salinas is having issues too, but I just realized I forgot to bring my charger for my device, and it's looking like it might be getting a little low. So everybody talk fast, okay?
All right. Well, our first and probably only speaker, we have more. We have Susie Hafstadter with Bike East Bay, and go ahead, Susie.
Thank you, City Clerk. Looks like the mayor has her charger, so that's good for all of us. Good evening. I'm happy to speak to you this evening. I first of all want to just really, from the bottom of my heart, thank city staff and the consulting team for this project and this plan. Sharman Sola, I have to say, is one of the most dedicated and hardworking public servants I've ever worked with. She's done an absolutely incredible job in the past few years that I've had the privilege of collaborating with her. Our technical advisory committee also included Community Resources for Independent Living and Bike East Bay and the school district, as she mentioned. And we've had some really, really excellent meetings that have really gone deep about community needs and resources. And it's been a really incredible process. So thank you. And for council, I'd really like to encourage you to take this moment to not only approve the plan, but provide really strong direction regarding safety priorities, climate change priorities. This plan lays out a really bold vision, and it's time now to implement. So this means not asking staff to spend unreasonable amounts of time deciding whether or not to implement safety projects, road diets, in repaving, and to do them when it's reasonable. And they can do those safety assessments and those engineering assessments and just do it. And in this moment in time in our world, you need to just do it. And I say that because our state is burning literally as we speak. People are dying in the streets, and it's time. So I'm not trying to be dramatic, but it's a dramatic moment. So yeah, please just give staff that clarity that they have the green light, and just go. So the staffing issues I know are hard because of the economic situation, but other cities your size do have dedicated bicycle and pedestrian planners. I don't know if any of you have driven around Fremont lately, but they're working quickly, and that's because of dedicated direction from council. So I ask you to do that too. You can, and the state and the county are with you. So thank you so much for your time and for your dedication.
The next speaker is Stephen Dunbar.
Okay. I was just going to thank Ms. Hofstadter for all of her input over the years about our bicycle facilities and for pushing us on this issue. So we're now going to go to, is it Mr. Dunbar?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Marvelous.
Thank you for all of the input you've given us as well.
Yes, I think I probably put over 200 comments into the online tool very early on in this process. That was over 2 years ago. And I want to say that it's just been an excellent job, well done. I don't want to make it sound like that was an automatic. There was a lot of work done, and this is a fantastic plan. And I've sometimes quibbled with other plans, even up to the last day, and I don't have to do that here because it's complete. It's a wonderful well job to city staff and for all of you in the infrastructure committee to keep it moving, and thank you for all your work. That's all I have for you.
Thank you so much.
Mayor Halliday and Mr. Dunbar.
Do we have any other speakers, Madam City Clerk?
Mayor Halliday, he was the last speaker.
Miriam, we can't hear you.
Yeah, we can't. Oh, thank you.
City Clerk Lenz, if you can speak into the mic.
Let's see. I don't know that I see any. Let me see if I see any other thing. I'm getting my own technical problems fixed here. Thank you very much. I don't think that we have any other. I don't see anybody on.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay, perfect. So that was the last speaker. We don't have any additional speakers at the moment.
Okay, great. Then I will go ahead and close public comment on this item and move to council comments. I'm sorry. Let me go back to just, we're trying to get, so. I know I saw hands up. So Councilmember Mendel, take it away. I should.
Thank you. All right. I think this is fantastic. It's great. It's been wonderful to be a part of sort of a small part of the development of the bicycle and pedestrian master plan over the last couple of years as a member of the CIC. I do want to thank Sharon Sola and the rest of staff that worked on this. I really want to thank members of the public like Stephen Dunbar and Susie Hofstadter who contributed so much to this. It needs to be emphasized how valuable the input they provided was. And, in part, Stephen mentioned that he doesn't have any quibbles with this. I think in part, it's because we invited a lot of comment and obviously staff did a fantastic job of listening to it throughout the process. So just my compliments to everyone who's been so passionate and working on this for so long. I also want to thank my fellow members of the CIC, Councilmember Salinas, and especially Chair Marquez, who's helped guide this effort from as the chair of the CIC. And also to Councilmember Zemania, who has been the council's longtime champion for bicycling and for doing more to make it easier to bike and walk around town. You guys all deserve a little bit of a shout out there, so I definitely wanted to do that. And I'm not going to, even though I'm going to be supporting the motion once it's made, I'm not going to make it in hopes that one of you two will get to make the motion. And then I do agree with Susie that it is time to just do it. I mean, and when we're doing a road project, just include the bicycle and ped improvements in it. And I'm really feeling good about the likelihood of that happening because we've already been doing it. Yeah. Even before this master plan was approved in the last couple of years, we did, I don't remember I wanted to say like the previous 20 years, we did like 5 miles of new bike lanes. And then in the last 2 or 3 years, we've done 15 or 25 or 30 just in the last couple of years. I'm not getting the numbers exactly right, but the point is we've started implementing it already. Staff has started implementing it already. They've included it in road projects, and we just need to keep doing that. We just need to do it, as Ms. Tuffstetter pointed out. And for me personally, I want to see us investing every dollar we have into just doing it. And at some point, maybe it's necessary to look at staffing, but I'm really hoping that every incremental dollar can be allocated towards implementing these plans rather than planning for more plans. So it's like, I feel like we have a plan now, so let's just do it for a few years, go after that grant money and really focus on that. And to the members of the Transportation Department, from where I'm sitting, it is all of your responsibility to be paying attention to bicycle and pedestrian issues. I don't want to hire one member of the Transportation Department whose job it is to do that. I'm putting it on all of you to participate in that, as you have been already. So take that as marching orders, I hope, and to just go for it and just do it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Salinas.
Yeah, I just wanted to echo Councilmember Mendel's comments. This is, I remember some time ago, we all celebrated when we were able to get a few miles of bike lane. and now, we have a plan. And I think, much kudos to Susie for keeping us honest and, keeping us to task. And I think she's been real good with that. And also just wanted to thank fellow colleagues on the CIC and, particularly Professor Ameri, his patience and his attention to detail, I think really served well on this. And of course, with Charmaine and Mr. Kelly, it's just great teamwork all around. So with that said, I'd like to move the item.
Second.
Was that Councilmember
Wahab?
Wahab? Okay. So the item is moved by Councilmember, the staff recommendation moved by Councilmember Salinas, seconded by Councilmember Wahab. So Councilmember Wahab, would you like to go ahead and speak?
Yes, I appreciate that. So primarily, I definitely do echo the sentiment that Susie Hofstetter stated. I do believe that a lot of the effort that we as council as well as staff can make, especially with the environment, we should just do it. There's very little consideration to be made. I think that this entire council has been champions of environmental justice in a lot of ways. I think that, we all differ slightly in opinion, but for the most part, I think that we're headed in the right direction. And I want staff to understand that this is a priority in all things we do, whether it's development, whether it's infrastructure, whether it's, you name it, or water, for example. I think it was mentioned that when Director Miri presents himself, there's always going to be a big ask financially. And, in the course of several months since our July 1st, if you will, I've been taking a look and it's always about, ensuring our water is cleaner, our sewage piping is better, our water treatment facility, you name it, we say yes to it without even hesitation. And I think that when you take a look at some other cities where they have not had clean running water for years now, I think that we prioritize the environment, and the master plan for our bike and pedestrian plan, and the fact that we have revisited it since 2007, I think it just clearly shows the direction that this council wants to lead the city in. So I hope that staff is very much listening, and I really do want to echo the thanks to staff as well. I think you guys have always been very inclusive. Director Mary, your staff has been very inclusive of a lot of public opinion, whether that's the airport or whether that's, just overall infrastructure and anything else we do in the city of Hayward. So I do really appreciate the staff, their efforts, this council's efforts, and I'm excited to see what we can do in the next 10 years with the city of Hayward and being more green, if you will.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Zermania.
I am on. Okay. Yes, thank you, Mayor. And I thank Susie and Steve, and I thank also Mr. Amiri and the rest of the staff for doing a very good plan. And I thank my fellow city council members who I am guessing will vote for this. I think it's time. It's a very good green plan. I like it. We were actually the second city in Alameda County to have green bicycle streets. Livermore beat us by a month. So I wanted us to be first, but alas, we were not. As I tell people, I'm brown on the outside, but I'm very green on the inside, which is one of the reasons that I wanted to have more green streets for bicycle safety. So that's why I like this plan at all. I will keep looking for a Tennyson bicycle shop. I think it's time that we need one. And I imagine in 2035, where we're all going to have a majority of electric cars, and I see bicycles all over the place. So thank you all for supporting this motion, and bicycle as much as you can. And if you haven't bought one, go out and buy one. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Marquez.
Thank you, Mayor. Just wanted to give my appreciation to everyone yet once again. For me, I echo a lot of the comments that Susie Hofstetter made. It's really, really important that we focus on the areas where there have been fatalities and accidents. I think that needs to be priority, as well as the safe routes to school. There, I know we're in some unique circumstances right now with the shelter-in-place order, but that will lift at some point. So we want to make sure that we ensure that safety, and hope that the city can also partner more with Bike East Bay and promote events on educating the public how to properly use a bike and how to navigate the city on the bike. I think we definitely would all benefit from more education. But this is many years in the working. It's really excited to see all the collaboration. Thank you, staff. I watch you consistently on the infrastructure committee be open to that feedback, sometimes even to the 11th hour. So really, really appreciate that flexibility. And Charmaine, you knocked it out the park. Thank you for your dedication, and I really appreciate Susie's compliments as well. So I'm happy to support this plan and hope that we continue to secure more funding. And I agree with Susie, whatever we could implement immediately, we should make it a priority. So thank you so much to everyone who contributed to these efforts.
Thank you. Did you put your hand back up, Councilmember Zermania?
Yes, I forgot to thank Charmaine. My apologies, Charmaine. Thank you.
Yes, well, I will echo all this. Thanks. I have to admit, I'm not really a biker anymore. A few years ago, I gave it away to someone younger but when I did ride my bike, I basically rode it in my own neighborhood, the Southgate neighborhood at that time, and rode back and forth to the Southgate Swim Club. But I am a pedestrian. And I think, we've all talked about the bicyclists, but it's also very important that we are improving walkability of our city too, because a lot of us do that. And we want to do more of it, staying out of cars, using public transportation. So This has been a long time coming, but I'm glad that we're finally approving it. It will help us to get grants. I sit on the Alameda County Transportation Commission and represent Hayward there, and I will do everything possible to continue with the rest of the commission to promote these ideas and to identify new funding sources for these kinds of improvements. Where our whole region is. I think we are trying to move forward in a very green way. As Ms. Hofstadter pointed out, clearly the climate is telling us we need to do a better job of reducing greenhouse gases, and more walking and bicycling is one good way to do that. So thank you so much for all that. Regarding Councilmember Zermeño's desire for bike repair on Tennyson, it made me think about a trip to Washington, D.C. a few years ago, where outside of Union Station, which is actually a big train station, metro like BART like thing, and it's just very transportation oriented, and they have a huge facility right outside in front of it that is dedicated to, it's like a bubble. It looks like, it's like I can't describe it, a geodesic dome sort of, but it's dedicated to bicycle repair and bicycle parts, and I think even probably rental of bicycles. So it made me think that what Councilmember Zermeño is talking about, that the Tennyson BART station would be a great place to have something like that. And I know that we are looking to maybe finish out that, that Tennyson BART station area plan that had to be abandoned a number of years ago. So that's something to keep in mind for some kind of a retail commercial business down there. I think I like the priorities. I'm really glad that safety has been emphasized. It's been very concerning to look at those higher collision interchanges, both pedestrian and bicycle. So I think that's the right way to go. I'm really glad to see improvements on Hesperian. That has been a street that I think you really might be taking your life in your hands to ride a bicycle up and down it. So with that, and I'll just mention that the Alameda County Transportation Commission does provide, and Hayward participates in, a Safe Routes to School program, which an important element of that is providing safe bicycle training to our young people. So I hope that we can continue that and really get in all the schools and encourage our young people to ride bicycles, and rather than be driven to and from school all the time. So with that, I think I certainly will support the motion, and we're ready for a vote on this motion that was made by Councilmember Salinas and seconded by Councilmember Wahab to support the staff recommendation. Madam City Clerk.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Councilmember Lamnin, and I believe she hasn't rejoined, but she's doing okay, by the way.
Oh, thank you for that information. You were also not as, I wasn't able to hear you, but I think I am now. So yeah, I will think.
City Clerk Lenz, if you could kind of plug it in better or adjust it, because I could barely hear you.
No.
We're not hearing you. There.
How about now?
Yes, we're hearing you now.
Perfect. We're having some technical difficulties. Councilmember Marquez.
Yes.
Councilmember Mendel.
Yes.
Councilmember Salinas.
Yes.
Councilmember Wahab.
Yes.
Councilmember Zermeño.
Yes.
Mayor Halliday.
Yes.
Thank you.
The motion passes with 6 aye votes. So that brings us to our informational item, I believe, it's from the city clerk. It regards the November 3rd, 2020 general municipal election vote by mail ballots. There's a lot of information in the report. I'm not going to ask our city clerk to go over that now, since I see we're down to very few attendees on Zoom at least. And Madam City Clerk, the information that is in this report, and it has a lot about polling, where there are going to be polling stations and or ballot collection boxes for mail ballots. This information is available on your the city clerk's webpage on our website, is it not?
Not right now, but it will be tomorrow. We are going to add more information. And starting October 5th, we are going to have the confirmed places. And so that will be definitely added. The library team and my team, we are working on putting together a video that we are going to disseminate to our residents. So we hope to have that all ready by Friday. So the information will be uploaded to the website tomorrow, and additional information will be available on Monday, the 5th.
Great. And anybody who has any questions can call your office, I'm sure, and get the answers. So
yes,
we may be talking more about this as the election approaches, but we don't need to go into it more tonight then. So unless anybody has any questions from the council, and I'm not seeing any raised hands. So
thank you.
So with that, we'll move on to city manager comments.
Thank you, Mayor. Just one quick comment, some good news I wanted to highlight. StopWaste.org, our regional waste management authority, has donated 50 refurbished computers to our Hayward Library that will be used for our adult literacy learners. And so these 50 computers will be given to them as sort of a loaner, and as they make progress in their literacy education, they will eventually be able to keep the computers. So I'm really excited for that partnership with Stop Waste and grateful for the donation. So just wanted to share some positive news this evening.
And on that, along those lines, how soon do you think it will be possible for people to actually go into our library and use those computers? We have not gotten the all clear from the county yet. It's at least a couple weeks away, but we are trying to figure out what that means, given the staffing reductions that we did with the budget and the reduced occupancy that would be allowed in the library. We're still trying to make a determination about how to allow public members into the library. When we tried to enforce social distancing previously, there were some angry residents that engaged with our library staff in inappropriate ways. And so I would hope that if and when we are able to open the library again, people will be respectful of the rules and requests that our staff are making to maintain social distance, and the reason why certain computers are shut off and not operational because we have to keep people apart. So those are the kind of operational concerns that we have with reopening. So. Yes, well, I hope people are hearing that and we can get the word out. We all have to cooperate and, do our part to keep this disease from spreading. But thank you for the update. It is very hard not to be able to use that library, especially in all of our other city facilities. But we are working hard and trying to follow, all of the guidelines from the county health department and make sure that when we start reopening things, that it will be in a safe manner. With that, I will move to council reports and announcements. Councilmember Marquez.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to thank the city clerk for her work. It's really important that everyone be educated on the upcoming elections. I just want to encourage those who have not registered to vote and are eligible that they have until October 19th to register online. It's going to be very important that you participate in the process. Also, just to remind folks that through waste management, we did negotiate. Our staff did an amazing job in making sure that each resident gets 2 bulky pickups per year for free. So the year is coming to an end. Take advantage of being in shelter in place to get rid of that clutter. And that phone number is 510-537-5500. I've already used my 2 bulky pickups. I wish I hadn't because I still have plenty more junk to give. So I've got to wait till January now, but definitely take advantage of that. And also want to ask, I don't have all the details. So if staff could please provide the council an email and maybe we can do an update on the Stack newsletter. But my understanding is that Glad Tidings Church has also opened a test site. So want to make sure that we get that information out to the public. Although we still have our site up and running at SkyWest, it's just important that the public knows that there's an additional site available on Tennyson Road. And then also, I had one more request, but it's escaping me. Oh, the census. I know some volunteers went out in the community this past Saturday. So we want to encourage those who have not turned in their census to please do so. And do we have a name or number of contact information for community members that may need assistance? City manager, do we have someone that can assist them if there's a family that's still needing additional support?
They can call the city manager's office and the phone number. Let me just get the main phone number. It's 583-4300. So if folks are having difficulty with the census, just contact the city manager's office and we'll connect them with a staff person who can assist.
Okay, great. Thank you.
All right. I see no other requests from council right now. Wave at me if you want. Nope, I see no one. So with that, until next week, I think there's a mistake on the agenda here. I think our next meeting is actually on October 6th, not October 5th, but it's on October 6th, next Tuesday night at 7 p.m., again on Zoom. So until then, with good thoughts for Councilmember Lamnon and her family, this meeting is adjourned.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.